Hi everyone, welcome back to What G Reads. I'm Gabby and in this video I'm going to show you some of the most intimidating books that I have on my bookshelf right now. I always love watching these videos because there's always a common theme, and it's one that will continue to be a common theme in my video, and that is the books are just really long. That tends to be the sole reason for the majority of these videos, is that people are just scared to get into a big book, and I'm one of those people. You just don't want to commit to something so long. I can really only read one book at a time. So whatever book I'm reading, I'm with it until I finished it. I'm not a big DNFer. I tend to finish books. So if I'm reading like a 700-page book, that's the only book I'm reading for, I don't know, 2 weeks, however long it takes me to read it. It's a big commitment, you know, you're with it. Also, if you're a commuter, you've got to carry that thing around with you. And I always have to have a book with me. I'm comforted by the presence of a book. Even if I know I'm not going to be able to read, I will take a book with me. I get a bit annoyed going to the supermarket because I can't take a book with me because I need the space in bags for my shopping. So let's see what I've got on my books that I'm a bit too intimidated to read list. Also, this is my newest mug. It's from Asda. It was £3 and it's just a cute little ghost. And I'm someone that has too many mugs, so I've only been able to justify buying another one by promising myself it is the only mug I will use for all of October and maybe some of November. I'm not allowed to use any of my other mugs until I've made this worth it. So you're going to be seeing this a lot, and there's very autumnal vibes. Such autumny vibes in this whole setup today. The blanket, I mean, I'm basically wearing my blanket in my jumper. I'm a little ghosty friend over here, my orange nails. God, I'm so autumn. Anyway, let's get going. Put this down. The first book that I'm too frightened to read is The Love Songs of W.E. I want to say W.E. Du Bois, but I've heard people say it lots of different ways. By Honoré Fannon Jeffers. Probably said that. I've made that sound so London. Anyway, I have not heard a bad review about this book. I have only heard people rave about this book. To be honest with you, by the blurb, it's not something that I would usually pick up or be desperate to read. Maybe I would pick it up, but I wouldn't be really excited about it. As far as I'm aware, it's sort of a multi-generational story about belonging, about kind of discovering your past. That's kind of all I know. But I've heard people say it's amazing. I think it's a debut as well, which is a bit insane. So I waited for the paperback because, my good God, I couldn't deal with it in the hardback, even though I loved that colour scheme on the hardback. I think it was like kind of orange and green. So yeah, I waited for the paperback. I bought this whilst I was sat on a sun lounger in Mexico because I was that desperate for it. On the day this came out, I ordered this to be picked up from Brent Cross Waterstones, and I ran once I touched down in London town again. But the reason this is intimidating, one, is because it's got to live up to the expectation, because I wouldn't normally get it, I wouldn't normally buy it straight away. So I'm expecting it to blow my mind, and also it's huge. You know, that's the elephant in the room, the size of this book. How many pages is this? I can't even like flick through it properly because it's really big. Wow, the author's got a lot of awards. What a powerful picture. Look, she is having no nonsense from anyone. She knows she's written a brilliant book. The end. 790 pages. So terrified, but beautiful cover, look at that. I'm hoping this is good. I don't need it to be the best book I've ever read. I just need it to be engaging enough for 790 pages. So that's Intimidating book number 1. Intimidating book number 2 is of a similar vein, to be honest. It's plain Bad Heroines. Again, I did not buy the hardcover of this. I waited for the paperback. I do like this cover. I just like a bright colour. I like a neon. You wouldn't be able to tell from how I'm dressed and everything going on right here, right now. But I do love a neon. So yeah, I'm on board with this. Not keen on the big wasp on the front. They could have chosen a bee, which is a bit more friendly, but actually I think the wasps are part of the story. Yeah. Yeah, some of the murders happen by horrific wasp attack. Yeah, again, I've heard incredibly good reviews about this. People saying it's amazing. It's just quite big. It's not quite as big as the previous though. Let's have a look how big this actually is. 617, so slightly less. And, which I didn't realise until I was filming, I can't remember what my last video was. I think it was my spooky TBR. This is on there as well. I didn't realise it has pictures in it. Isn't that lovely? You don't get that very often anymore, which I think is a shame. But anyway, again, I've had fantastic reviews about this. It's sort of like a dual storyline where it's set in the past at a boarding school that was shut down because there were multiple murders, and then there's the kind of modern perspective, which is that there is a movie being made about those events, and you kind of go back and forth. I'm excited. It sounds fantastic. I think it's dark academia vibes, which is right up my street. It sounds something I'll love. It's just really big, and so, you know, if you're not into it in the first like 50 to 100 pages, where do you decide to keep going? Like, when have you got enough of the story that you know it's not for you? Like, big decisions to be made if it doesn't get you straight away because it's so big. But I nearly hit myself with it then. Did you see that? God, I think I would have given myself a concussion. Anyway, that's plain Bad Heroines. Another big one that I'm a little bit scared to start. Don't know where to go next. I think I'm going to break things up a bit and go for the marriage portrait. This is one of my most recent acquisitions. I'm so excited about this, which is the reason why I'm nervous to start it. I am so excited. I've got such high expectations for this. And I'll be sad if it lets me down. I can try and explain why I'm quite so excited about this. One, it's bloody gorgeous. Look at it, and do you know what? Let me show you all of its gorgeousness. Okay, so the end papers, fabulous, just fabulous. And I was born in the year of the tiger, so all over that. And then the actual book without its dust jacket. Ooh, ooh, lovely. Anyway, so that's partly why I hope it's good, because the budget has been significant. And also, I liked the sound of this straight away, and I went to an event at Waterstones Piccadilly with Maggie O'Farrell where she was speaking about this book, and she started talking about her initial inspiration for it, and I had a light bulb moment and I knew exactly the reference that she was speaking about. She was talking about a poem called My Last Duchess, which is not an obscure poem by any means. It's very well known, but I studied it at school quite briefly in the context of whatever novel I was studying at the time. And I loved the poem. I thought it was so creepy and cool. I think it must have been around the time that I read The Bloody Chamber, which I really liked. It's sort of that fairy tale sort of creepy vibe, which is something I really, really love. I'm a big fan of Matthew Bourne's ballets, and he always kind of does that. It does like a little twist on the expected. So like, I mean, for example, this year's ballet, if you're interested, is Sleeping Beauty, which I've actually seen a few times before, and he makes them all vampires. It's brilliant, it's genius. Anyway, so the fact that she's speaking about My Last Duchess, which is a poem, if you don't know, that is being told by a man and the Duke, an Italian Duke, and he is speaking to his new wife's representative, and he's basically talking about his old wife, and he draws back a curtain and there's a portrait of his last Duchess under the portrait, and it's sort of implied in the poem that he had her killed. Anyway, so she was speaking about that, and she said that she questioned if that was real, if those people were real people, and so she did some research and it turns out they were, and no one is quite sure whether the Duchess was murdered by the husband or just died. And that's what the marriage portrait is about. The marriage portrait question is the portrait in the poem, and that's brilliant. I'm just really, really excited. It's quite a long book as well, but that isn't what's putting me off of this one. What's putting me off is that, one, I don't want it to be over. That's the thing, when you buy a new book, I don't want to read it straight away because I don't want the experience to end. I want to prolong the enjoyment of the book and the excitement of reading it. So obviously once I've read it, and that's sad. Also, I really want it to live up to the expectation because I'm really excited. So yeah, I'm intimidated of this one as well. Next, we're back to a long one. That is The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. This is not a new book by any means. When did it come out? 2013. I was 14 when this was first published. And I remember, I think my mum had a copy on her bookshelf when I was younger. And it's just, you know, a very popular book. You see this cover everywhere. And it's a great cover. I mean, especially that spine. Brilliant. But again, it's sort of a long, sweeping, multi-generational story. It sounds very good, and do you know what? Though I'd seen this book everywhere, I actually didn't know what it was about, so I can read you the blurb in case you were in the same position as me. It says, it's 1866 and Walter Moody has come to make his fortune upon the New Zealand goldfields. On the night of his arrival, he stumbles across a tense gathering of 12 local men who have met in secret to discuss a series of unsolved crimes. A wealthy man has vanished, a whore has tried to end her life, and an enormous fortune has been discovered in the home of a luckless drunk. Moody is soon drawn into the mystery, a network of fates and fortunes that is as complex and exquisitely patterned as the night sky. That sounds so exciting. That sounds brilliant. It's just very, very long. So I think it'll be the sort of book that grips you in the story. It might just take a while to do so. How many pages is this? What is the most so far? 790 is the most so far. 832, we've got a winner. 832 pages. Long. I'm not against a long book. I read Les Miserables when I was 17, and that's like 1400 pages, the copy I had, and I loved it. It's great. I have the Count of Monte Cristo, and I started reading when I was at school, and then I did my A-levels and that fell right by the wayside, so I haven't actually finished that one. But that's another long book I want to, that should be on here as well. Insert the Count of Monte Cristo as a bonus. But yeah, The Luminaries, it's got a gorgeous cover. The plot sounds really, really exciting. You know, you can read so many amazing reviews of this online because it has been out for a while. It's just bloody long, but I will read it one day. Quick little spooky tea break. Are these its arms? We can't quite decide. I mean, we think obviously this is his mouth. He's going woo woo. But are these his arms? Is he going woo woo? What do you think? Right, I'm caffeinated. Let's carry on. The next book I have that I'm scared of is The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. I really, really, really want to read this. I really want to read all of these. I really want to read this because in January, I listened to the audiobook called The Absolutist by John Boyne, and I loved it. It was so good. I didn't really know what it was about. I kind of just like chucked it on for something to listen to while I was at work, and I was very distracted because it was a very good story and it was heartbreaking. I'm not one to kind of get too emotionally invested in books. I can recognise when something sad has happened, but I don't cry, I don't really. But I was doing my work, and when the twist happened in the novel, the sad bit, I actually had to physically stop what I was doing and kind of process it and let it sink in and like take a moment because it was great. So So I really want to read this, and it's such a popular book, everybody knows this book, and I love this copy as well. But one, I know it's quite sad. I have listened to a podcast where John Boyne said it's also quite funny, but I know that it covers some sad topics. Again, it's quite long. This is quite, oh, how floppy these pages are. Yeah, it's quite long. I just think it's gonna be quite heavy. I know it does some heavy, sad topics. It's very heavy as well. I'm not looking forward to carrying this around with me in my bag. But yeah, I keep just shying away from this one. Every time I go to read it, I think, oh, maybe I'll read something shorter and easier instead. So I need to stop doing that, give myself a bit of a slap and actually read the books I want to read. Because I know I'm gonna like this. Typical. Next is Foundation by Isaac Asimov. Is how I believe you say that. I mean, there might be another way. Let me know if I'm incorrect and I will correct myself. Now this is obviously a tiny little skinny book, so it's not the length that's the issue here. What I'm intimidated by is the fact that it's sci-fi. I don't read many sci-fi books. I don't think I've actually ever read more than like one, if I've read any at all. I know this is incredibly popular. It's obviously been made into a TV series. It's the start of a big long series of books. It has good reviews, but it also, when you go on Goodreads, some of the reviews are like, what's the point of this? It's really boring. Like, nothing happens. It's just people talking, which is obviously quite off-putting. But yeah, I'm just nervous to read this because I'm a bit scared of not having a clue what's going on and it being a little bit just too sciencey, and I'm gonna be a bit bored. So yeah, even though it's short, I do keep putting it off because I'm scared of it. So let me know if you read this or you've watched the TV show and it's good, because I need some encouragement. And lastly on my intimidating books list is Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. The wonderful Hilary Mantel passed away very recently, and I'm very embarrassed that I have never properly read anything by her. I've read some essays from her. I featured in my final essay at university because I wrote that essay about the Whore of Babylon in the biblical story and Madonna, the pop star. Vogue, Material Girl, that Madonna. And she wrote a like a journalistic piece on Madonna, which I used because it was brilliant. Everybody knows Wolf Hall. It's obviously quite long, and I think the books only get longer in the series. The next two I think are longer than this. But also I'm getting better at reading historical fiction, and I've liked lots of historical fiction that I've read this year. But I have this thing in my head where I feel like I don't like it because I just kind of get lost in what's going on, and it's all a bit not very exciting. It's not thrilling. It's just a bit like real life, and like this person married that person did this, and then that burnt down or whatever. But I do really want to read this just because it's such a beloved book. It's such a well-known book. I've got a copy. I can't have it sitting around forever, but I am nervous about it. I mean, the copy I've got is so lovely. This gold copy, isn't that beautiful in the sun? But I'm frightened of Wolf Hall. But I do want to read it, and I want to watch the TV show as well, even though it's quite old now. My mum's read it and she loves it. She's actually reading the third one at the moment. So yeah, I do need to get on this for Hilary because it's brilliant. So that is all the intimidating books that I own at the moment. As far as I'm aware, there's probably more elsewhere that I'm putting off and ignoring. But have you read any of these? Have you read any of these big scary books that I'm terrified of? If you have, let me know. Are they worth it? Do you think I'm going to enjoy it? And I will read them. And as I do, I will do reviews on my Instagram, which will be linked in the description. And they might feature in vlogs and stuff as well. So make sure you subscribe and keep up with my videos. And let me know what books you're scared of in your collection. I'm sure there's plenty. Because we're all terrified of books over 500 pages. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.